Hello guys, my name's Airsick Hydra and I've decided to put together a video today to talk about the upcoming Warhammer 40K Inquisitor Martyr alpha test, announced for this Friday, aka February 10th. So obviously we're going to find out more in the upcoming days and as the alpha is released, but there has been some information released thus far over the past year or two about the game, and I thought some of you deciding whether or not to engage with the alpha might benefit from having some of this information sort of pulled together for you so you can make a little bit of a decision. So what we know is this is going to be a fairly small alpha and it's going to be independent, so it won't be available by Steam. You'll have to go direct to their website and sign up for this independently. What I'll do is I'll put a link to that down below in the description of this video. And I think it's a smart move by the developers because it means that they're not going to missell, they're not going to have anyone coming to the alpha that doesn't know exactly what they're getting themselves into. So again, I'm hoping this video can help clear some things up and sort of share a bit of what I've learned about the game thus far. So what we know, it's an ARPG, which stands for an action roleplay game. So think of Diablo 3, Path of Exile or something like that. However, there's going to be some differences, and the developers have clearly said that this is going to be somewhat different to the typical ARPG and a little bit more friendly and open to the more casual player, I think. What they're doing is they're doing away with the very fast-paced lightning click-based combat you'd typically get from something like Diablo 3 on Cataclysm difficulty, or Inferno I think they call it, and instead they're going for more of a cover-based system, where the combat's going to be slower and you're going to have a little bit more time to plan your attacks, calculate where you're going to attack an enemy, what moves you're going to use, and there's going to be a little bit more decision making involved. So I think this is a really good move for them, because the Warhammer fans typically like strategy. Warhammer is obviously a strategy game. One typically takes it in turns to have goes with your opponent, and so as a general bunch we're quite patient people. So I think this is a really good move for them. So what we also know about this is that it's going to make it a little bit more friendly and open to newcomers to the scene, which is really good for those of you that haven't played an ARPG yet and want to get a little bit involved. So going into the cover-based system a little bit more, what we know is that the cover is going to be destructible, as will be the rest of the map, which is pretty exciting because having played, I think it was Red Faction, the first ever game where you could destroy maps and blow apart doors and walls left, right and centre, it gives quite an immersive feeling to the map, and they've shown some good footage so far of just a simple storm bolter, or bolter pistol I think, just firing around the map, leaving some good dents in the scenery, as well as the cover that enemies are hiding behind being blown up by grenades, pillars being destroyed, etc, etc. It all looks pretty nice and pretty impressive and should make for quite a pretty game. And speaking of a pretty game, they've stated that this is going to be set across multiple worlds in the galaxy, and they've shown some rather pretty looking images where you can fly around and visit several of these areas. So what sounds most impressive though is that this is going to be largely randomly generated by their own system. So much like Path of Exile, if anyone's played that, we're going to have a lot of randomly generated content, which should allow the game to get a lot more sort of replay value than your typical sort of hack and slash play through once and chuck it in the bin. So that automatically puts this game in the good books for me. Anything that has randomly generated content, huge plus, huge plus. As well as that, to add to sort of the replay value, we have co-op features, which seem and sound like they're going to be separate to the main story campaign. So you will have a main single player sort of Inquisition mission to do, and then you'll have a separate co-op sort of thing you can get on and do. We don't know too much about this, we don't know how many of you can group together. We know there's going to be 3 classes, we don't know how many subclasses or if there are subclasses, we don't know much about this, but they seem to follow the typical sort of tank and DPS. You can see there's a fairly traditional Space Marine and an assassin revealed from the videos so far, but we don't really know much about skills and abilities and customization yet. But being an ARPG, I would be hopeful that not only will there be skills and abilities that can be customized, as well as sort of character points, etc, and talents, hopefully there'll be equipment too. We know there's different weapons per class, but hopefully there will be some form of grindable weaponry or grindable loot equipment. They have mentioned loot in some of the videos, but they've not mentioned what that loot is. If it's currency, consumables, vanity items, we don't really know. but I'm quite hopeful that this game's going to include something that gives you an incentive to keep on playing. And on that note, there is also going to be an entire system, which what they're referring to as seasons, and those of you that are ARPG players will know what a season is. It's essentially a set period of time which an event will run for, and this event will be, of course, limited to that duration and will involve some form of story-driven content, unique enemies, etc, etc. It's something unique to that given point in time. We're not talking the traditional sort of MMO, it's Christmas, here, have a hat. It should be much more meaty than that. And what they've even said is that the decisions the players make through that will then go on and influence the following missions and following events, etc, and systems. So it sounds like they're taking a lot of elements from different games and really combining them into one. And speaking of that, they're taking an element from a game known as Ark, where there's going to be some form of base invasion system. We don't really know much about it. We know you're going to have a base, a fortress, you're going to be able to upgrade it, you're going to be able to attack other people's bases. We don't know how this works, what you're going to take. They've mentioned taking loot if you're successful. We don't know what that means, but that again adds that little extra dimension of annoying someone else, which is a beautiful thing in the game. Fantastic to have, and I think something pretty damn exciting. And obviously from the videos, if you have a little poke around, you can see the enemies look quite pretty. There's a good variety of chaos enemies that we've seen so far. No mention on if other races will be involved, but I would suspect along the course of the game that they will be doing so. No guarantees, that's just my speculation. And we know that there's going to be some form of vehicles involved, which will be interactable with. I don't know if you can pilot them or just shoot at them, but there will be vehicles involved. I think from one of the forums they did mention you can drive them, but don't quote me on that. So all in all, it does look like there's a few things to be excited about with the game. It's got certainly a lot of features taken from other games, other ARPGs, and they're tailoring it to more of the Warhammer fan base. So from what I can speculate, they're doing a good job of this. So again, see what you think of the alpha. You do have to pay for the game, from what I understand, in order to be a part of the alpha testing. However, I'd like you to make an informed decision. Have a read around. There's nothing worse than buying a game and it turning out to be something you weren't expecting because you didn't do your homework. So do your homework. Hopefully you found this useful. Thank you for watching. My name is Hydra, and as soon as I know more about this game and I can share it, I will let you know. Take care, all the best.